Good afternoon, sexually appealing Nintendo fans. It's Alpha Omega Sin, obviously. Unless he has a very sexy doppelganger who's walking around stealing his camera and running about in his game room. Essentially just a body snatcher. But regardless, I'm here to go and talk about Nintendo news that happened earlier today. Nintendo, they did a live cast from Japan, from Europe, and here in the States. And the Nintendo of America president, Reggie Fils-Aimé, he came out and he talked about a whole bunch of things, such as the price of the Nintendo Wii U console, and the release date, and a bunch of random features and games and whatnot that'll be coming out. But the main point of this I'm going to talk about is the release date and the price point. So I'm going to start with the release date. November, just in time for the holidays. November what? November 18th! That's right! So when you're out and you're just maxing out your credit cards and you're just watching your wallet go and flutter away into the fucking wind, wishing that it was being bogged down with some kind of money inside of it, well, this will be one of the main reasons why. Because you'll be spending your hard-earned cash on a Nintendo Wii U console. You can get the basic console. The basic console is going to run you $300, or as I call them, bones, because bones sounds way cooler than dollars, or whatever fucking other random slang term people use for cash. But there's a deluxe version that's not so basic. So the unbasic version, the deluxe version, costs 350 bones. Not dollars, bones, damn it. So, anyhow, major difference between these two, other than the fact that both of them have a complete opposite color scheme, white for the basic version, black for the deluxe version. The major difference between them is Nintendo Land comes on to the deluxe version. You don't have to actually purchase that for free, and it's or purchase that for free. Ha! Because I know good words and shit like that. You don't have to purchase that separately, because separately and free are different words. But anyhow, so the thing that I found kind of odd about this is Nintendo's been going really far out of their way talking about Nintendo Land. I mean, a whole fuck ton. You saw it at E3. They were just yammering on like a motherfucker, so much that they brought it up a second time. Usually you think that, well, we got our fill, okay, let's move on to the other things that we could go and talk about with our new hardware that's coming on, new features and new games, and blah, 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 blah. Now they brought it up a second time, and they've been talking about it ever since. Well, they went and they announced it's going to have 11 games, and they were talking about Metroid that's going to be on it. And admittedly, the Metroid game looked a whole fuck ton better than I thought it was going to. I wasn't too sure what to expect. I was like, will it be good? Will it not be good? Will I even give a fuck? Is there going to be 3 fucks I could give, or just an empty field of fuck for me to give? And I can point out and make tons of jokes. Well, just so happens it does look pretty decent. But Nintendo Land, back to the point, Nintendo Land is going to be with the deluxe version. If you get the basic version, you want to get it separately. I thought this was weird though, because Nintendo Land kind of translated to their version of Wii Sports for this console, where it was something that you could pick up and play to get you used to all the different features that the controller, since it is a fairly, complex controller by comparison to all the other things that they've ever released. Because I mean, before we had a Wii remote, we'd waggle it and had a nunchuck, and it's like, holy fuck, this is totally different and everything like that. So now we have a gamepad, which is a lot like the tablets and iPads that are out there, except for now it has analog sticks and a bunch of buttons and shit on there. This is me talking about fangle technology. It's all tied in a knot, and it looks like some kind of weird tornado and shit like that. But it is kind of interesting to think that they don't have this included on both. I don't really understand that, but, it's pretty much whatever. I know overseas they did include Wii Sports with the Nintendo Wii console initially whenever it came out. It was sold separately, and nowadays Wii Sports isn't actually sold with it, which I always thought that was kind of odd that they decided, well, we'll sell it separately now and everything like that. Just odd. It should be included on there. It's just like a bunch of really crazy-ass tech demos, but it looks like Nintendo Land at least is taking a step forward, and it isn't as bare-bones basic. So anyway, that's one of the things that differentiates the two systems. The other thing is the amount of internal memory in it. The basic system comes with a whopping 8 gigabytes. That's it. 8 gigabytes. That's all you get. 8 GB. Yeah, GB. GB. So, 8 GB versus the deluxe version's 32 GB. So, I would much rather have 32 gibbas as opposed to 8 gibbas, because, well, obviously, more is better. So, fuck yeah. And there is one thing that I actually did want to point out about Nintendo Land. If you did plan on getting the basic system, and you're like, well, I do want to get Nintendo Land, that seems pretty cool, I'll buy that separately, that'll just be silly because you can just get the deluxe version, and it would be cheaper. Just think about that. Ah! I found a loophole, aren't I smart? I know numbers and shit. Mathematician, math wizard, look, he's got his math wizard hat and all the other shit. It made me think of Harry Potter for some reason, and Bill Nye the Science Guy. I don't know why. It has nothing to do with math either. It's fucking weird. But anyway, so beyond those two things, you also get a charging cradle for your little Wii gamepad. You put it on there and it's charging. You're all like, fuck yeah, that's so awesome. And that's really good. Nobody actually celebrates when they're going and charging something. They're usually pissed off, like, it's fucking dying! What the fuck? So, you know, it comes with a charging cradle that's very nice and dandy, even though it already comes with AC adapters and all the other shit, but whatever. And it'll come with a little stand for your system, so you can stand it up or lay it down flat, whatever the case is. You know, I actually used a stand for my Nintendo Wii, so it's kind of nifty. So, again, I think that should be included with both. That's just me, though. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting is that both consoles are going to have an HDMI cable included with them, but no AV cables and no component cables. I thought that was kind of strange. Now, I know for a fact that many gamers nowadays have moved on from, you know, the basic tube televisions and everything like that, and actually have, you know, brand new TVs that are very nice and everything like that. I just thought it was kind of odd that they didn't include anything extra like that. Granted, they'll probably have the option at some point on the store you can go and get something like that if you just have, like, a basic 480p TV, whatever the fucking case is, but, you know, it's just kind of odd. It was something that caught my eye and I was thinking about. But here's one thing I want to go and start really talk. Oh, you know what? Before I start talking about the price point, because that's the point that I was actually getting to, there is one more thing. If you go and get the deluxe version, this is the other difference between the two. If you get the deluxe version, when you go online and you're downloading games through their eShop and things like that, you'll actually accrue Nintendo Club points. And apparently you'll get 10% off for a certain amount of time. I thought that was kind of interesting. And it made me wonder, so the basic system, if you have that and you're logged in under the basic system, you'll never get stuff like that? I'm kind of wondering how that's going to work exactly. So anyway, that was something I wanted to go and point at. It's just kind of odd. So, on to other things. The price point. This was the biggest deal about it because we were all wondering what the fuck is the price going to be. Now, I was guessing it was going to be $250 to $300. It's in fact $300 to $350. Now, I can't say that that is a horrendous price because we have heard worse. $499.99, $499.99, $499.99. What did he just say? $499.99, $499.99. That's right, hair metal style, motherfucker! But yes, we have heard worse, and you know, don't get me started on the fucking shit like 3DO and the Neo Geo consoles. They were just like, so can you take out a loan? You can't get this fucking system. Get the fuck going, unless like you're riding around on a yacht and shit, like, bitches on a yacht playing Neo Geo, bitches on a yacht with the Neo Geo. I'm not a rapper, I don't really give a fuck, everybody can suck a dick. Every dick that there is! I'm pretty sure I talked about that in rap though. And in metal, when they talk about it, it's usually like, I'm gonna force feed you dick and kill you, but you know. Anyway, who gets off track? This guy right here. So the price point. So, comparatively, seeing $250 and $300, I would much rather, in my opinion, I'd much rather see a $250 price point for it to go in, but where it's at right now, it's actually competing fairly well with what's out right now. But, here's the main thing. I think that, you know, this is kind of be like an uphill battle because they're going to be competing with consoles that people are already established with, you know, already have a bevy of games who are already used to, and those are just going to continue to come down in price. Now, I understand that, you know, new hardware, you can't bring it in that low because you're just going to lose a shitload of money, but let's be fair. Most hardware, 99% of most consoles, whenever they're ushered in to that next gen that just started, okay, whenever they get ushered in, they're usually losing money on every single one of them for like the first 2 years. That's just how it's always been, with the exception of the Nintendo Wii. You know, that was like one of the very few exceptions. Now, this is something that's probably going to be debated about heavily, whether or not, you know, you're going to want to go out this holiday season and churn out the cash to be able to get the Wii U console. But to me, you know, price is a very important factor, but in all reality, and we all know this, and this is a fact, it depends on what games there is. Okay, and that's all that there is to it. At the end of the day, okay, if the Wii U launch lineup and the games that they have announced coming out for it within the coming months after its initial launch strike your fancy and then some, like if they have exclusives out the ass that you are absolutely like, oh man, I need to fucking have that, then, you know, you're going to be more than willing to cough up that money and it's not going to be a big deal to you. But since we're on the topic of price points, there was something that they neglected to go and touch base on. Now, the Japanese, whenever they did their live cast for that, they did make this price point. I noticed that their gamepad, they had no price point for at all. Now in Japan, after you do the conversion of yen to dollars and everything, it comes out to be about $180. Fuck, that's a lot. That's essentially like getting a console. I mean, that's a whole fuck ton of money, and I understand that this is a very advanced piece of tech, and nothing like anything that we've ever had before, but the thing is, it's still a controller at the end of the day, and that's how all of us are going to view it. This is something that we're going to pick up, and this is how we interact with the games. It's a controller. So to see something like that, I figured that the price point is probably going to be about $150. That's what I'm going to assume. I don't see it being $180 just because everything over in Japan was just a tad bit more expensive by comparison to what they announced it for here. So I can see it being about $150. If it's lower than that, like $125, that'll be even better. I mean, the cheaper the better. I mean, if it could actually drop below $100, wishful fucking thinking, I understand that. That would be a lot better. But this price point, for the gamepad, the games are $60, and for the console itself being $300 and $350 is going to cause a fucking uproar. I already know that 100%. While I'm making this right now, I was just like, I can imagine a bunch of people are going to fucking argue out the ass about this. And, people are going to try to justify the price. People are going to try to say that it's way overpriced. People are going to start saying, oh, you're too fucking cheap and things like that. And me, I'm kind of in between right now. I understand its price point because, it's current gen technology, but that controller is fucking expensive for them to manufacture. And that's packed in with every single console, and I understand that. That's one of the things that I go into understanding. But the thing is, as a consumer and as a gamer, do I really give a fuck about their manufacturing costs? No. It's a piece of machinery that I want to use to entertain the living fuck out of myself with. So I want it for as cheap as possible, like anybody, like any rational person, that pays their bills and everything and has to go and live on their own, like yours truly and many of you out there. We don't want to have to pay a fuck ton of money. We already feel like, fuck, $60 for games? That sucks ass. And I started doing this math. I was like, okay, we'll say that the controller is $150. Okay, so you get the deluxe version of the system so that, you have the $350 plus the controller. Alright, so now we're at $500 plus a game. That's $560 for 2 controllers and 1 game console and 1 game. Holy fuck, man! I mean, again, this is ushering in the next-gen era, and I understand that, completely understandable. But it's just, thinking about that is mind-boggling. Like, my wallet, reach into... My wallet can't handle that. Like, it's... How much do I got in here? I have $40 in my wallet right now. So if I went there, I couldn't even afford a game right now. I was just like... Fuck, dying, no! And, it is the holiday season, so people are more prone to spending a bunch of money, and again, maxing out the credit cards, and, going and spending a whole fuck ton of money. It's like, bank account? What bank account, motherfucker? But this was very important, because they did not announced the price point at E3, and I felt that they were still debating on the price and that they were kind of scared. I think that even while they were doing that live cast, I can guarantee Reggie Fils-Aimé was probably sweating Crisco at that point. Just like, oh fuck. I know that there's going to be a bunch of people, like, as soon as I say the price, cameras are going to start flashing, and then the internet's going to go... And that is essentially what's happening right now. So I'm kind of curious, how do you all feel about this price point? Okay, basic version is $300, deluxe version is $350, and a controller can be anywhere between $150 to $180. We don't have an exact estimate. They didn't even talk about the Pro controller price either. So, in games, $60. How do you feel about all this pricing exactly? Do you think that's on the money? Do you think it's just right and what it should be? Comparatively with everything else that's on the market right now. Or do you think that they should be smarter about it, go in cheaper so that they can undercut the competition? Since the Wii, if they're trying to go and make lightning strike twice, do you think that they should be like with the Wii and make it as cheap as possible for the consumer so that everybody will just flood over there and just buy them all up because it's not going to be so strenuous on their pocket and on their fucking checkbook and things like that? How do you feel about it? Do you think that it's actually good? And, you know, the release date is just fine. Launching in November is a really good thing here. It's odd, we're actually getting it before Japan. I was like, holy shit, like, in Japan's coming out in, like, the first week of December. I was like, wow, that's kind of surprising. You know, and I honestly forgot off the top of my head when it's launching in Europe, so I do apologize for that. I was mainly focused on the States and everything like that for obvious reasons. But I'm going to include all the information down below in the information section with all the links and everything, so you can go and check it out. If there's anything that I just so happen to miss, then you can go and check that out. But go ahead. If you think it's overpriced, if you think it's just right, if you don't really give a fuck because you have no plans on buying it, if you're really excited about it, you know, whatever the case is, whatever your opinions are, whatever your feelings are, there's a motherfucking comment box down below. If you want to talk about it on video like this motherfucker right here, then you can do that because it's YouTube and there's videos and we're supposed to watch them and listen to them and all that other good shit. So whatever that is, you know, do your thing, people. Do your thing. But anyway, so, I shared my opinions, my thoughts, my feelings, and all that other good shit, like I normally do, being the opinionated bastard that I am. Haha! So anyway, this is Alpha Omega Sin, nerds, nerdettes, and gamers. Game the fuck on.